Walk before you run. Practice, learn what you're doing. So it's best with reds. It's best with any saturated color, reds or saturated color novelties. The reason being is whites tend to go creamy or green in the cool night. So to really get a white to be white, you want to finish it relatively warm. So white in a cool regime, even though the bracts may develop on a given variety, they're going to lean to whatever underlying color is under there. I call them the green whites and the beige whites, and it really depends on the parentage. So whatever that shift from pure white is in the genetic will be exaggerated by a cool night. I will say, however, and I wouldn't want to stand on this as actually, but this new variety, Alaska, which is a very white variety, even though it does reduce the bract size a little bit, it did way better than I thought in a cool night. So it's worth looking at new whites in a cool night situation, but historically, whites are challenging, not because of development, but because of color shift. That's true of other light novelties as well. The colors are going to be more intense.
Yeah, at this moment with the new whites, I mean, they're so bright paper white that it's more of a trial phase for the cooler nights at this point. Absolutely. Than running with it, because you spend the money and you shift your production to these newer whites and then you finish them cool. Well, you haven't really accomplished anything because that brightness isn't coming through.
Exactly. And my experience with this, with them in a cool environment is Europe based, and it's based on a couple of different trial locations. And, you know, one read is not enough to make a recommendation. So definitely pay attention to it. Again, reds are the best to do, and there are a lot of good reds that are very good at cool finish, and red is usually the majority of your production. So the idea is I'll keep my whites and my novelties and my maybe low short growing novelties or any of these other idiosyncrasies that you have. I'll put them in a normal greenhouse, but I'll put my reds, I'll pick reds that are cool tolerant, and I'll put my large production runs into their own cooling zone. There are other factors. You are, with genetics, there's going to be delay. In some cases, it's minimal. I mean, a day or two. Other cases, it's a week. Some cases, it's fatal. It just won't work. Bract size reduction is the same thing with delay. You have some varieties that they reduce a little bit. Everybody will reduce a little bit, but a lot of varieties will produce still a very attractive, saleable plant. In some cases, I think an improved look on the plant with a little bit of a cool night. But there are other varieties that just absolutely will not work. They will not, the bracts will not size up. You are creating a environment which is good for botrytis and mildew. You are also potentially, if you're not careful, reducing ADT, reducing your ability to uptake nutrients in that plant during the day. So you got to be careful how you do it. So again, that's a subtle change, but it does affect it a little bit.
And so if you're finishing cooler, while you can reduce your EC as you get closer to finish, you might need to adjust your feed higher so you don't your EC doesn't crash hard as you're cooling off temperature.
So this is a good example of two varieties. All three of these are commercial varieties. Two varieties that will not work in a cold finish and one that does work in a cold finish. And this was basically like a 58-degree night regime where this happened. So it's really important that you know the varieties will work. Check references in your catalogs for cool capabilities, or ask somebody. Because again, trying to cool off the wrong variety, it just won't work. So my point here is that there are genetics that are good for this and genetics that aren't in everybody's programs. So be aware of that.